This meeting is being held in conformance with the Sunshine Law. Notice of time, date, and place has been furnished to the Bergen Record and the Ridgewood News. Notice has also been posted on the bulletin board of the Administration Building. Would the clerk kindly take the roll?
Mayor Giordano.
Here.
Mr. Bjork.
Here.
Ms. Saracola.
Here.
Mr. Ritchie.
Here.
Mr. Schatz.
Here.
Mr. Shalero.
Here.
Mrs. Sherman.
Here.
Everyone kindly rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us have a moment of silence for all our wounded veterans and all veterans across our country who have given the ultimate sacrifice, keeping us free so we can assemble like we are today. And also a moment of silence to pray for the war in Ukraine. Amen. Okay, good evening, everyone. And under my report, just have a couple of items. First, about a couple of months ago, maybe a year ago, the Goodell family approached us and asked us if they could donate 2 trees in memory of their son, Police Officer Christopher Goodell, in the borough. I spoke with the father today after COVID is no longer, which that was when he decided to do all this. He asked us about him putting the trees here in the borough, and we agreed. 1 tree is going to be planted at the fire company number 2, the 9/11 memorial. It'll be a white tree that resembles the same trees that they put at 9/11, and the tree will be dedicated in memory of all first responders. He will plant the tree. He will do the mark out of the tree. He will maintain the tree until it becomes good enough to be on its own. The second tree he is donating will be in front of the building here near the flagpole. We used to have a big, huge tree there. We took it down because it was interfering with the flag. This is a low tree that doesn't grow high. Same exact tree that was planted on the property of St. Luke's Church is the same tree that he will bring here. He will do that also, and he will maintain it, do the markouts, and do everything like he's doing in the other tree. He does not know who he's going to dedicate that to, but when he does, he'll let us know. He will put a plaque. He's going to do everything to make sure that it's done right and is preserved here in Waldwick. Also today, or this month, is National Women's History Month, 2022, and we will have a proclamation that I would like to read. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of the life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of their homes. And whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, and whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable and cultural institutions in our nation, and whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement, and whereas American women have served our country courageously in the military, and whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the movements of emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which creates a more fair and just society for all. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of the American woman in history has been consistently overlooked and overvalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Thomas A. Giordano, Mayor of the Borough of Waldwick, along with the members of the Borough Council, do hereby dedicate and proclaim the month of March as National Women's History Month 2022, Women Providing Healing, Promoting Hope, and to celebrate International Women's Day, which is today, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, on this 8th day of March 2022, a global day celebrating the economic, political, and social achievements of women past, present, and future. A proclamation has been set up. It's been signed. We will put it in our lobby for everyone to see on a pedestal like we do all of our other proclamations that we give out. Kelly will take this tonight and have it all done tomorrow. Also, tonight, we have a young woman that's here from the Scouts, Maya Vin Olive, who was doing an Eagle Scout project, who we've been waiting for her to be here to tell us and show us what her plans are. Maya? Absolutely. That's okay. Give it to everybody else.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Maya Vim Olive. I'm a Life Scout from Waldwick in Troop 933. I'm looking to make a trail in the wooded section bordering HCA Park for my Eco project. I'm very excited to clear a trail there that bikers, walkers, and families can use recreationally. I have already sketched a rough draft of where I believe the trail should fit on that section of land on papers you have over there. When I start physically clearing the trail in the spring, I will fix and change the trail as the trail should go necessary. I will fix and change where the trail should go as necessary in order to make it safe as well as an enjoyable walk. There are plenty of fallen tree limbs that I can use to mark the sides of the trails so that it's clearly marked. When actually clearing my trail, I will have the help of my family, Troop 133, which is the brother troop of Troop 933, Troop 933, the Waldwick Troop, Troop 88, my friends and my family. I intend to make the trail run along the Saddle River in that area tends to get muddy. In order to remedy that problem of mudding sections on the trail and making it possible to use, I may need to use mulch. I was wondering if the town has a mulch supply that I could use.
Could the DPW? Yep.
But I just intend to make the trail walkable because right now there's a bunch of roots and just mud over there, so I just want to make it possible for families to use.
Anyone have any questions?
So this is very nice, thank you. So the trail, it looks like it's not a loop or anything, so you're kind of envisioning this as kind of a walk up and a walk back?
Yes.
Or are there going to be exit and entrance points at both ends?
I'm thinking more like you walk there and then you walk back. And on the paper, I accidentally made the trail a little bit lower, but I would make the start of the trail would actually be a little bit closer to the HCA, so it's more accessible and visible.
Got it.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Hi, Maya. Would you consider making it a loop trail so that people could go in one way and out the other, or vice versa? I realize it's double the amount of work, but something to consider.
Yeah. If I don't make a loop trail, I'm considering like making the exit point of the trail a little bit closer, making it like a little bit closer to the HCA. Well, making a part of it closer to the HCA so that there's an exit point as well. So this way there's two options. You could either walk there, walk back, or make an exit point near the HCA. Yep.
Just to clarify, so the beginning of the trail would be at HCA or over at Malcolm?
The beginning point would be at HCA.
HCA, okay. And then you wouldn't be able to walk out the other end and get onto Malcolm Street by the pump station over there? You would just have like a dead end and then turn back and go?
I was planning to do a dead end, but I'm wondering, I'm going to try to make it like an exit point on Malcolm Street accessible.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I just took a walk through there because Ms. Sherman mentioned this area, and I'm kind of familiar with the terrain now. And when you have one stream crossing?
Hmm?
Is there one stream crossing, a small body of water where you have to cross it all?
Yes, by the end. See, that's why I try to make it a dead end, because there's
Right.
no water there, but I'll see if I can build like a small, like wooden platform that you could walk across, if it's possible.
Anyone else? Now, I think Patrick, you talked with Patrick already, and I think Patrick met, and you went down there. So, you know, your key contact would be Patrick.
Yep.
He's the one you met, you talked with, I think he took you down. Okay? Anybody else have any questions?
Well, is there anything else you need from us or your troop? I know you talked about your family and friends helping you, but do you see any significant roadblocks that you might need extra help with?
There's only 2 possible roadblocks that I would need the town for, and that would be, there's large logs that I'm thinking about cutting so that there can be like seats available, like on the side of the trail for people to rest on. And I wouldn't be, like, it would require heavy machinery to cut, which I don't have access to. So I might think about calling the town to cut the trees down. And the second roadblock is, I'm going to try to avoid it as if possible, but above the trees, there's really like loose tree limbs that I don't want to fall on anyone and for them to get hurt. So I will try to avoid it if possible, but I might have to call the town to remove them.
Okay.
Yeah, before you start your project, what you do is you let us know. And then what'll happen is, when you first start it, we'll have the DBW go down there with you, and you could explain to them what you're talking about cutting things down, and they can start doing that for you.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be cutting any live trees down, just the dead ones. Yep. Right. Thank
Anyone
you.
else? Oh, you finished?
Maya, what troop did you say you were with?
Troop 933. I'm a local of Waldwick, but it's kind of regional because there's not enough girls to make an own girl scout troop. So it's really in Upper Saddle River.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you for telling me. Good luck to you.
All right.
Anyone
Thank you.
else?
Thank
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is an admirable project, and I'm excited to be able to walk on it once you complete it.
Do we have, everybody is in agreement to have Maya do this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're set.
Right,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. And I want to thank your dad for bringing you to see me a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. And now you, like I told you before, work on your brother. The brother wants his up for Eagle Scout. You got to push him. Well, thank you very much. Financial Administrative Committee, Mr. Scalero.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we're going to have a couple of ordinances we're going to introduce, so the majority of my report will come at that time. And we'll be talking about the budget and the ordinances later on the agenda. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Fire and Police Protection Committee, Ms. Ericola.
Thank you, Mayor. So the fire department finished February with 13 calls for service. There was a structure fire in the attic of a Waldwick home on Saturday night due to an exhaust fan in the bathroom, so make sure you guys are checking your exhaust fans. Sunday morning, Waldwick responded mutual aid to Midland Park for a dryer fire, and the department also held a Tesla drill to learn the ins and outs of that type of battery vehicle. And also on a side note, they presented me with a leather helmet, and I'm really excited about it, so I appreciate the wonderful gift from the department. Moving on to the police department, they informed me that there were 2 motor vehicle crashes of note on or near Route 17. So the first was on 227, and they responded for a 2-car crash with a rollover and an entrapment. The vehicle rolled over several times and flipped over the guard, coming to a rest in a wooded area. Fortunately, the car didn't hit any trees, and the women were extricated from the car by the fire department and transported to Hackensack University Medical Center. The second car was on the shoulder with the driver uninjured. Witnesses to the crash reported a third vehicle driving at a high rate of speed, weaving in and out of traffic, which caused this accident. So they obtained video of this vehicle, and the driver was issued several motor vehicle summonses. The second accident on 3-6 involved a single car at the intersection of Sheridan Ave and East Prospect Street, and the car also ended up on a wooded section off the road, but the driver was uninjured. NJ DOT was notified of a downed light pole and a damaged junction box. So the reason I bring this to your attention is because our section of Route 17, particularly southbound, is a rough stretch of highway for a lot of reasons. Over the years, we've had several bus stops taken out and eventually had it moved back further from the highway. Another thing on Route 17 this weekend was the Freedom Truckers convoy that passed through the town without incident on 3-5. There were a number of supporters on the pedestrian walkover with flags and banners, but there were no incidents reported per the police department. Finally, the department had the locker room bathroom heaters installed yesterday, which should be a big help to them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Mr. Schatz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The ambulance corps had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and I would like to bring up they sent me the run for a month for February, and they had a total of 40 calls. They've even started doing calls out of town and doing mutual aid calls, which is a big coup for them because they've now picked up on doing all the weekends, covering the weekends and the nights. They're having a little problems going in the daytime, but they're trying to fill in everything. They're doing the best they can. I also attended the planning board meeting last week, and we were very busy. We had 6 resolutions approved, and we had 3 applications with 2 of them being moved. And then I'm going to talk about the environmental committee goings-on in new business.
Thank you. Recreation and Health Committee, Mrs. Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pulling off of our Friday news blast, the Borough Pavilions are available to rent. Please contact the Borough Clerk, Kelly Holowitz, for information on that. It's available for use for private citizens, and the restrooms will be open in late March, early April, so you can plan your parties accordingly. Ted Bell Park is kicking off this week. I'm sure Mr. Bjork's going to be speaking about that, but just know that you cannot use Ted Bell Park at least until Memorial Day weekend, when they anticipate finishing it. I met with Patrick and the superintendent or the supervisor of the DPW, Mike Latour, on March 3rd. We met at Veterans Park to discuss a weeded area that needs some looking at. There's some tree stumps there that need to be pulled out, and it just needs to be maintained. So Mr. Latour says he will add it to his list, but they have multiple things to accomplish, and this will be on the list, but they have other priorities first, which is fine. I'm grateful for them putting it on the list. And I also met with them on the Low Bridge and to discuss installing some window boxes on the railings. So we measured them out, and those will be in the works because we got the permission from the state on that. There'll be a Waldwick Band concert, 2:30 p.m. on March 13th at the Village School. So it's free. Come out and see the Waldwick Band play. They're always very entertaining. It's an orchestra band, so it's very good. Also pulled from the Friday News Blast, March is National Nutrition Month. So if you click on that, there'll be recipes and what each week is as far as nutrition. So click on it. There's a lot of very helpful information on there. Thank you to Kelly for putting that up there. April 23rd at 9 a.m. is Earth Day. You saw the information about that on the Friday News Blast as well. The Beautification Committee I will speak of. We are looking for volunteers to help with the cleanup. So I think I see a scout in the audience. Perhaps some scouts could help us. We're looking for any organizations that want to come out and help. It's going to be a fun day. There'll be many activities for Earth Day, but I'm pushing the cleanup, and there will be bagels and coffee, so come and eat and work. All supplies will be given, so you don't have to bring anything. Our vets will be there to assist and hand out the garbage bags to our residents that come and help. The vets are doing a campaign, Still Serving, and they'll be promoting all of their efforts by also helping with the Earth Day. I was approached by a resident, Karen Lavanos, who's also part of the Chamber of Commerce, and she wants to do a Good Deeds Rock Garden at Veterans Park. It will be river rocks that go in Borough Park near White's Lane. There's 3 trees there, and it's just going to be a little pretend stream made out of river rock. She's going to line it with larger rocks, and it'll be an area for reflection and just to hang out, a nice pretty area. So we're looking for the council to approve this project. I know she sent everyone an email about it with photos, which I have here. So I guess we would need an approval for her to go ahead and start working on this garden. I mentioned it to the superintendent of the DPW, and he said it would be favorable. This is the area. It would be a favorable thing as long as it doesn't take over the grassy area that's there, because the DPW needs to mow the lawn, and they can't have this be in their way when they're trying to do it. So I discussed it with Miss Lavanos, and she's aware of what she can and cannot do. So I don't know if the mayor and council would be willing.
We have to make it a policy vote.
Oh, okay.
Tell her to send us something, and we'll
She
just
did.
vote on it right away.
She did.
Did you send, you,
I just got it.
okay.
So it
We'll
would
put
be
it on
on
the
the
next
next
agenda for the policy vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you're welcome.
And that's all I have. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a chance to catch up with Mike Latour, the superintendent of DPW, and they've been using, ooh, it is in and out. They are using the warm weather to try to do a little bit of spring cleanup. They've been, cleaning up some of the shrubs around the parks, the well house properties. They are doing some catch basin work. A lot of the catch basins require a lot of iron grading repairs, so they've been working on that. Checking all the valves. They have to check all the valves underneath the ground. So they've been taking advantage of the warmer weather to do that, ensure that they're properly maintained. They are, it's give and take every day, but they are doing their best to try and plan the pothole filling in. I think there was plans to do it this week, but now we're going to get rain, possibly snow later this week, so it makes it difficult. I will ask, Patrick did a lot of work between the last meeting and this meeting to make sure that I think some of the telephone poles and some of the signage that was brought up was fixed. I don't know if you want to discuss that. You're always so modest. You have no report every other week, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but maybe you could talk about some of these.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, all those issues were addressed. The telephone pole that had been broken on Monroe and Wyckoff was removed. They had scheduled, but I don't know if they've completed, they being PSE&G, to fill the hole that was on either Evergreen or Hemlock. We had fixed the sign on Cleveland, and I believe that was the last item. So all those were taken care of in the last week.
Yeah, and I know the DPW played a role in some, if not all of those. So at any rate, it's always good to hear the feedback, and I think they try to do what they can. So that is it for this week, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. York.
Thank you. As Terry said, we're hoping to start Ted Bell shortly, and as As Mike said, we're expecting bad weather tomorrow, so it may not happen tomorrow. It may start on Thursday. And the area's already been, blockaded off, so people can't go there. Mayor, you had mentioned you're going to reach out to the family
Yeah.
for some type of a shindig once we're done, I guess we'll call it?
Yeah, as soon as we know when it's finally done, I'll reach out to the daughter that I spoke with.
Yeah, I've got the other daughter's contact information if you want to circle the wagons together.
Sure.
Believe it or not, we have a closing date set for the parking lot over here, according to our esteemed barrister, and it's March 16th, so we've decided to go out on the 17th and celebrate once we once we take ownership of that. And assuming once we've got the actual ownership of it, we can get almost started immediately. We've got the drawings done, and were we able to file for permits or anything like that yet, or not necessarily because we don't own it, or?
Yeah, I've been holding off
Yeah.
Boswell as much as I can, but I'd say that the construction documents are about 80% finalized. So they have done a lot of work. One thing that we will have to wait on are test pits for to ensure we have perk for the rain gardens. And so those we'll have to wait until the ground thaws. So hopefully late March, early April, our DPW can get out there and do those test pits. Once we get the results from those back, we can finalize the construction documents and go out to bid.
Okay, yeah, and, being that we're very confident that this is really going to occur, I think we can do a lot of legwork before we physically own it as much as we can, so we hit the ground running. Great. We stopped by the library. I tried to speak to Don. I guess they're taking donations of books again, so I confirmed that over there. Thank you, Don. That was all I had, Mayor.
Thank you. Borough Administrator, Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. No report.
Borough Clerk, Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Bergen County Clerk's election training on February 24th. We are not going to be using new voting machines for this year. They're pushing it off until next year. The county needs to inspect all of the facilities used for polling places to ensure that there's sufficient electrical outlets in those facilities. It's a lot of equipment, and I guess some other counties are doing that as well. Bergen County happens to be the largest, so the other ones are doing it. We might as well do it too. They will be releasing new videos to educate the voters on how to vote on these new machines when we get around to it. So there's a lot of legwork that has to go into getting this launched. Some other things they did talk about at the meeting, though, they have an election integrity and transparency post on their elections website that talks to, speaks to explanations for the election process, OPA requests for vote by mail, requesting to become a challenger and what that entails, observing ballot counting. They do stream that live when it actually does happen, and also how to spot fake news. They discussed how poll workers will receive a refresher class on the poll pads. What else? The results. For each election, we're always looking in one spot for the election results. Well, apparently there's two spots. So I have to go to two different spots to get all of the votes on election night when we switch to the new machines. There'll be two spots that we have to go to, so that's coming up. They are looking at, for vote by mail, last time we had county committee with vote by mail, we had 5,000 vote by mails. This time they're expecting 80,000. So that's kind of a big, heavy lift there for them. The Board of Elections was audited for efficiency and accuracy for last year's election for vote by mail, and they received a 99.8% accuracy rate, which is pretty good. We have 31 drop boxes in the county. They wanted us to emphasize, and I do have this on our site, about the security of those vote by mail boxes. When we get closer to an election and when those vote by mails actually go out and they start to be received in the boxes, they literally send a Republican, a Democrat, and a sheriff's officer to pick those results up and bring them back to the county. There's documentation that they have to do all along the way, sealed, secure, all kinds of things like that. So they wanted us to emphasize that, and I do have that on our website. The spring and summer update is complete, and it will be sent to the printer by the end of the week. I mean, Patrick and I have looked at it a couple times. So, and then it'll be mailed out to the residents. Hopefully that will go well, because I know mail hasn't been going well here. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Grant Administrator, Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. One item for the council is that to make aware with the charging station, that's roughly between cost and installation, $10,000 to $15,000. That would charge a vehicle in anywhere from 3 to 8 hours. The higher level charger is called a DCFC charger. That will charge a vehicle in about 30 minutes. The NJDEP is awarding this year about 25 to 50 grants that will cover 100% of the cost of the DCFC chargers minus installation. It's a competitive grant application. They will be doing it years to come, but we have a lot of things going for us that may make us very attractive to this application. Bergen County is a tier 1 county, so they are trying to give to Bergen County more than tier 2 and tier 3 as well. There's a whole map in New Jersey with scores ranging from 0 to 100, 100 being the best. 15 East Prospect has a score of 80. As well, they're looking for sites that are within quarter of a mile of restaurants, public libraries, which that site also is capable of. So, although I don't want to promise we're going to get this grant, based on what I've seen so far, we do look like we'll have an attractive application. If we didn't get it, we would still have to go forward with the level 2, but it's always something we can reapply for next year if we don't get it, because they said this will be a continuing program for years to come.
Did you apply yet?
It starts on mid-March. The closing date is in mid-May, and they will not be awarding until after the closing date.
Okay.
So if I applied in the first day or last day, it does not make a difference.
Okay, and you'll keep us informed what goes on. Okay. Yes.
Patrick, we are still planning on putting in the electrical conduits for this, just in case, we don't get it in time or anything, but we are putting the conduits in for this.
That's correct, and at this point, that's our only obligation, is to make ready. So we'll have, the electric service at the public safety building will support it, the electric service at the municipal building won't. So we'll run off the electrical service of the public safety building, we'll have underground conduit that goes to the back of the parking lot. We'll have a good number of options for, once conduit's there, where we want to put the actual chargers.
Okay. And just to clarify, that's also for the quicker charging. We have the adequate amperage for that, the quicker charging method. I think it's what, as opposed to the lower charging method, the amperage requirements?
I'll have to check and get
Yeah.
back to you. I mean,
I know you and I spoke about
yeah,
that, but.
and we had an electrical engineer from Boswell come out, and they were confident in what was at the public safety building. I am not as well versed in the levels of charging, so I don't want to promise anything, but I can find out specifically.
Yeah, it
for you.
sounded like it was 240 volt or 480, and, I'm sure Boswell's on top of it.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, but we can confirm nonetheless.
And that'll affect the conduit sizes that we put in the ground, so we can fit whatever.
They do a good job of
feeders we need to
oversizing
put in. Yeah, okay.
that stuff.
Question, how much approximately is the DCFC if we didn't get the grant?
DCFC between installation and cost can be anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000. It is much more expensive than level 2. In return, you charge a vehicle in 30 minutes versus 6 hours. But that's why they're giving 100% funding minus installation. There are other grants to offset the installation, because they realize that towns are not able to afford $200,000 for a charger.
Okay, thank you.
And how is this going to work? Because aren't our parking lots for municipal business only? Like, how would someone be able to pull in and charge their vehicle if it's only for municipal business?
It depends how the mayor and council would like to structure it. So certainly, if you are interested in carving out these specific spaces to be available for general business, you could do so. There's also, people go to the library and people come to the municipal building. You could set certain times, but I think it's a little premature we haven't ironed out all those details yet, because I think it's a little premature, but certainly, we have flexibility. The Borough Hall parking lot being for borough business only is set by ordinance. You can certainly change that by ordinance.
Anyone else? Our attorney. Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. No report this evening. We do have one item for closed session.
Okay. Consent resolutions and resolutions of the governing body.
Thank you, Mayor. Be it resolved that the following resolutions herewith listed by consent, having been considered by the governing body of the Borough of Waldeck, are hereby passed and approved. 2022-123, approval of consent. 2022-124, approval of minutes, special meeting February 15, 2022, and the regular meeting February 22nd, 2022. Policy vote A, Karen Centuro and her neighbors request to hold a block party on May 7th from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. with Longview Drive closed between 14 Longview and 20 Longview with alcoholic beverages being served. B, Steve Katarnak requests to use Pavilion A on April 16th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. for a party with alcoholic beverages being served. C, Amy Doran requests to use Pavilion A on June 11th from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. for a graduation party with alcoholic beverages being served. D, Waldwick Warrior Football Club requests to use portable generators and lights during soccer practice at Veterans Fields Mondays and Wednesdays, March 14th through April 29th. 2022-125, award a non-fair and open-ended contract with Capital Electric Contractors as in an amount not to exceed $25,000. I think that's what, hang on. 2022-126, award a non-fair and open-ended contract with Challenger Fence, Inc. for fencing in an amount not to exceed $20,000. 2022-127, award a non-fair and open professional service contract to Boswell Engineering for ADA curb ramp upgrades in the amount of $7,000. 2022-128, authorize advertisement and receipt of bids for the Yvonne Street Bank Restoration Project. 2022-129, authorize waiver of permit fees for the Waldwick Board of Education for the improvements to the Waldwick High School District, High School, Middle School, Trapphagen School, and Crescent School. 2022-130, appointment of part-time clerk 1 for the municipal court. 2022-132, authorized to refund and cancel taxes for 100% veteran exemption. 2022-132, payment of vouchers.
Do we have a motion and a second? Motion by Don, second by Mike. On the question, anyone have, Don?
Mayor, I have a question about the Warriors' request to use the portable generators. Will we communicate with them when their cutoff is? I mean, just because they have lights, we don't want them to stay on the field all night, correct?
Yes, the request was until 8 p.m.
Till 8
So
p.m.
it'll be dusk to 8 p.m.
Anyone else?
Question.
Yes.
Whose generators and lights are they? Are they ours or are they the town? Or
They
the
are
football
the
club?
Warrior Football Club.
Okay.
And they used them last season at, they were approved to use them on our field, Veterans Field. I don't believe they used them there, but they did use them at HCA Park for quite a while, yeah.
On 2022-127, what that is that's part of our road program. When we do the road programs, we have to work on the handicap ADA curb ramps, and that's what that is. Also, the 2022-130, appointment of a part-time clerk for the municipal court. This woman is also, she works in the DBW. So she'll be spending time at the DBW work, and then she'll be coming up here into the town hall and working here. So she's doing two jobs and helping us out on both ends. Anyone else? Yes.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
Is this when I would ask them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The first is about the employee working for the DPW and here. Will the telephone be transferred to this location since we had a problem with the DPW phones?
I could answer that one quick. The phones are being transferred now also.
Yeah. Yeah, we changed how all that operates
So Kelly gets everything.
now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's better off that way.
Oh, good stuff, though. And as far as 2022-129, the authorized waiver of permits for Waldwick Board of Education for the improvements of the Waldwick High School District. Do we get to discuss that, or does it get grouped into one vote?
You could pull it, and then what we could do is we could discuss it privately. I mean, discuss it on its own.
Can we pull it, please?
Okay. Anyone else? Clerk Conley, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
And now Mrs. Sherman will talk about 2022-129.
Yes, this is requesting the borough to waive all permit fees for the improvements at the district buildings. It's a large amount of money. that the Board of Education is asking the borough to waive. Tonight, when we discuss the budget, the mayor and council is looking at a 2% increase for our residents in taxes for this coming fiscal year. Historically, the Board of Education has always raised the taxes every year and never gone zero like the borough has. I have a problem when we're looking to raise taxes, when we're forced to raise taxes to do all the services we need to do for our residents. I'm struggling to waive all of these fees for the Board of Education. They have a large surplus of funds, and they are not looking to ease the tax burden on the residents when I ask them about it. The Board of Ed receives 70% of all taxes collected in the municipality. The county gets 10% and the borough gets 20%. Our employees, our inspectors, our multiple inspectors, our clerical staff, all of our other employees will be burdened with these inspections at the schools. It's quite a large project at multiple schools, and it will be a time-consuming matter. They will be having to take care of all of the Board of Ed inspections, as well as the regular inspections they do when our residents or businesses want to put an addition on or do some work in their home. The Board of Ed has informed us that they are not willing to work with the borough to ease some of the services that the borough currently gives to the Board of Education, such as the maintenance of the Traphagen Field. I am looking for 10% of the fees of the building permit fees, not 100%. I'm looking for 10%, which would, in my opinion, cover the costs involved with our inspectors. I feel it's fair because we, again, have to raise our taxes 2%. Thank you.
You, anyone else? Yes, Chris.
On this matter, historically, the building department has always waived the fees for, Board of Ed projects throughout the county. It's been done for as long as I can remember. I was all prepared to say, let's just waive the fees, but we had asked Patrick to prepare a list of what services the town provides for the benefit of the Board of Ed and vice versa, kind of a, two-column analysis of what's going on. And I was really disappointed when they came back and said that they would not maintain the Traphagen Field. I think if we're going to do this, I think they should be able to do that for us. To get a point of clarification, Don and I were talking earlier, can you clarify when that agreement actually ends? Is it 2030 or is it closer than that?
The agreement ends in 2030.
Not until 2030.
Right. I know a member of the school board independently had indicated that, there may be an opportunity for a discussion before 2030, but to renegotiate the
Right.
agreement. But the agreement runs to.
Yeah, I feel this is a good opportunity to deal with it right now. I think one of the comments from the Board of Ed members that I heard secondhand is that it's, common practice that boroughs waive the building permit fees. That person is absolutely correct. But it's also common practice that they take care of their fields. And I think now's a good opportunity to say, hey, listen, we'll do it, but let's negotiate it out right now. Why wait? Why give them the opportunity to say, well, maybe we'll talk about it in a couple of years. Let's try to do it now. Terry's got a compromise here where she's saying maybe 10%. I'm saying waive it all, but let's get out from under trap. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the way they approached us is that this is what they want, and either we vote yes or no. We could maybe go and entertain them with the fields maybe a little bit later, but, I mean, you were in contact with them. This is what they sent us, and that's it.
They had asked that, when we discussed Traphagen, that wasn't an item that they were willing to negotiate on this year. That's correct.
This year.
That's right.
Anyone else? Yes.
I think my fellow council members raise a lot of good points. I can't dispute too much of what they've said. This is kind of uncharted territory for us because while we've waived fees in the past for the school district and other entities in the borough, nonprofits and things, we've never been faced with a project of this size. But the voters did approve this project, and it is going to go through, and it's going to be completed. So one of the things that I was looking for was to kind of protect the borough from taking on an undue burden. So, you know, I think some of the things in the resolution protects us to a degree in that if we have to hire additional inspectors or there are other fees associated with the project, it doesn't fall to us, it falls to the school district. So the other thing that we have to remember is no matter who pays for it, it's the taxpayers of Waldwick paying for it. So whether it comes to us or whether it goes to the school district, we as taxpayers are paying for this either way. I think one of the things that we should take away from this as well is what I don't think we do a very good job of doing with either the public or the Board of Education members is letting them know all the things the borough already does for the school district. They're really good about pointing out that they own the fields and all of the rec, travel, and club programs use the fields. Well, we don't own the fields. So we can't counter that argument and say, well, you know, you give us the field and then they won't use your fields anymore because they're not going to do that. But I think we could do a better job about talking about the things we do. It was really interesting at our last meeting, we were approving requests from 3 school programs to use the town pool. Each spring and fall, we reserve our tennis courts in our park for the school programs to use before they're available to the public. So, you know, we maintain the track. The public could use the track. I think there's a litany of things we do to support the school district that we're not very good about taking credit for. I think what we should do going forward is to kind of set the standard. We're willing to talk with the school district and work these things through, but we also want some recognition for the things we already do. And I don't think we get our fair share of that. So they feel like they do a lot. We feel like we do a lot. I think I'm for waiving the permit fees because of what we've all been talking about, but also to kind of lay the foundation for future discussions with the Board of Education.
Anyone else?
I need a
Oh, sure.
So when the idea came to us about a month ago, I saw an opportunity to potentially work a little bit closer with the Board of Ed. I also wanted the Traphagen Field kind of waived. But most of all, I saw it as an opportunity for us to have a discussion with the Board of Ed. I really do think that we should be working closely with them. I think that this is a governing bodies. Both of us should be working for the residents of Waldwick and the residents of Waldwick only. And I think that only when we work together will the residents benefit. I don't think that it's in the best interest of you know, my family or my children to have the municipal government and the Board of Ed you know, disagreeing on so many issues. So to Don's point, I think, you know, my interest is twofold. One, can we get that dialogue going with the Board of Ed, and can we use this as an olive branch to do that? And two, the more I thought about it, if we don't waive these fees, they are just going to raise the money to pay for them. And then the taxpayers get taxed twice. And so for that, I will vote to, for both of those reasons, I will vote to waive the fees.
I mean, we're put in a position that we have to decide yes or no, which is understandable whenever we have to vote on anything. But I think moving forward, like Don said, we should discuss the other things that we give them or they give us at a later date. I think one thing that has nothing to do with what they're asking for right now. Maybe we should get together with them. You've been in contact with the two people there. Maybe you could set up a meeting with us. Maybe their board, our board get together, and we could discuss, moving forward in the future, what we give, what they give, and how we could work together, or I hope not separate us, but just work together for a common goal, which is the young residents and the future of Walden. Anyone else?
You know,
Yes.
Go first.
Yep.
2 points. So the council had asked Patrick to look into the history of waiving fees and if there were any other municipalities that have waived the fees before. And correct me if I'm wrong, there were no other municipalities that said no to waiving the fees. So as Mr. Bjork said, it is a common practice, and Patrick could not find another municipality that did not waive the fees. My second point is, I spoke with a Board of Ed member, and she did bring up a good point that we built an entire middle school, and we waived the fees for that. So this is just more improvements in the Walden School District. So that was something else that weighed on my decision.
I was just going to say, I've never suggested that we don't waive the permit fees. I want to make that clear. I've never suggested we don't waive the permit fees. We're going to waive the permit fees. There's not going to be any backlash for not waiving the permit fees. But I thought this was an opportunity to say, listen, let's put this on the table. Is there an urgency to approve this tonight? Can we circle back the wagon and go back and say, guys, listen, we're going to waive the permit fees, but can we at least do this? We're stuck with this burden until 2030. Why do we have to kick it down the can, down another year to have the discussion? I don't even think we should charge them 10%. So forced into a corner, I'm going to say we're going to waive the permit fees. But I think we should consider circling back and saying, listen, guys, can we get out of this trap? But we'll leave it up to the rest of the gang. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I think we have some other items on the table where we could force them to the table to talk about some of these things. And, it's not just, using, the kids as leverage, using our pool and our tennis courts. They need other things that we provide. And I think we could bundle all those things together and bring them to the table for a good discussion.
Well, then can we table this until we,
They needed an answer because, you want to explain?
My understanding from the board was they've already opened bids, they're nearing the award. They have their own budget that they're considering now, and for those reasons, they need to know, in the near term, what the mayor and council's intentions are with waiving the fees. So the board had asked us to consider this at this meeting.
They wanted to do it last meeting, but we held off because there wasn't a full slate of council members here. I think it was something that was very important that we all should be here to discuss. Anyone else? Kelly, would you take the roll?
Need a motion.
Oh, do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Don, second by Mike. Kelly, please take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
no?
You'll send a letter to them telling them that with all the stipulations, and then somewhere along the line, once everything starts, we could maybe sit down with an open dialogue. I think that's what everybody's interested in doing. Okay, public hearing and adoption of ordinances. Will the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-04?
Ordinance number 2022-04, an ordinance amending Chapter 48 fees, establishing Section 65 Police Training Facility, non-participating in municipal law enforcement agency use fee.
Anyone from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? What this is we spoke about this at our last meeting. We have a group of police departments that use the pistol range, and it's called the Consortium of Police Departments. Then we also have certain other organizations that come in and use it that are of also public safety and police departments. And when they come in, they're willing to pay $500 each time they come in to use it. So what we're doing is we're just setting the fees for them, but everything else stays the same. Anyone else? I close the public comments, and I ask anybody from the public that would like to discuss this ordinance that was just read. If not, I close the public comments, and I ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading, and that the clerk be authorized to advertise it on local legal newspapers as required by law. Motion a second. Motion by Katie, second by Paul. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Okay, would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-05?
Ordinance number 2022-05, an ordinance amending the Code of the Borough of Waldwick with the addition of Chapter 98 entitled Small Wireless Facility in the Right-of-Way to provide for the regulation of small cell wireless facilities within the municipal rights-of-way.
Anyone from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? Anyone? Nobody? If not, would you want to talk about it or no?
I can, sure. This ordinance was drafted by the council that the borough hired earlier this year to just deal with these small cell wireless facilities, and it's also been reviewed by the borough council as well. This will govern small cell facilities used for the 5G for 5G wireless coverage that will be deployed in the rights of way. And we don't have any applications yet, but we need to have this in place before we get applications. You would get applications from mobile carriers, and they'd be looking to install these facilities on either new or existing telephone poles in the borough. And this sets out a standard for a review process of those applications, fees for the application review, annual fees for the for those utilities being on the pole, and some other aesthetics and placement issues for those wireless facilities.
Anyone else? I close the council's comments and open up to the public. Anybody from the public would like to discuss this ordinance that was just read? If not, I close the public's comments and ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading, at the clerk be authorized to advertise it on local legal newspapers as required by law. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Greg, second by Katie. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-06?
Ordinance number 2022-06, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-28, capital ordinance of the Borough of Waldeck in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $75,000 Bergen County Municipal Park Improvement Grant and reducing the capital improvement fund appropriation from $120,000 to $45,000.
Anyone from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? Don?
Thank you, Mayor. We've been talking about the Ted Bell Park project, it seems like for about 10 years now, but it's just this past year, I guess. But this has to do with moving forward with the project and the financing. We were awarded an open space grant from the county, and because of that, we're able to readjust our portion of the financing. It doesn't change the amount of the project or anything else. It just reduces what our contribution is and increases what the county's contribution is.
It reduces our capital on it. Anyone else? I close the council's comments. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? Nope. I close the public's comments and ask for a motion and a second to pass this on second reading, and that the clerk be authorized to advertise it in local legal newspapers as required by law. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Katie, second by Mike. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Okay, we have two introduction of ordinances, or really three. Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-07?
Ordinance number 2022-07, an ordinance amending Chapter 97 zoning, Article 11 zoning, Section 123.7, off-street parking and loading to add F, installation of electric vehicle supply service equipment, EVSE, and make ready-made parking spaces.
Motion and a second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading, and that it will be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 PM or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Greg, second by Don. On the question. Anyone have a question on it? Nope. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-08?
Ordinance number 2022-08, calendar year 2022, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget cost of living allowance and to establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
A motion and a second is in order to pass the ordinance on first reading and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 PM or so soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Don, second by Paul. On the question. Don.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is when we start to get into budget items, and for those of you that have been around, you know that this is something we do each year. It's an annual exercise to increase our cap bank. Essentially, the state has put a cap on how much municipalities can raise in taxes in a given year. So what the state enables municipalities to do is to increase that cap for special circumstances and consideration. So each year, we go through this exercise to do this for a couple of reasons. One is you have to do it before you approve your budget, so you don't know at any given point what circumstances may arise where you may need to tap into the cap bank. And there really is no harm. It's not saying we're going to exceed the cap bank. It's not creating any new expenses or other commitments of municipal funds. It's just saying that should we need to exceed the cap, that we're allowed to do that. It's a cumulative process over several years. And, there are times when we've talked in the past about whether we should do this or not, because in the history of the municipality, we've never had to take advantage of this opportunity or this allowance. So it still is just prudent to do it, so we'll continue to do it each year. And it doesn't commit the borough to any, like I said, to any additional funding. It just gives us kind of protection if we need it.
Anyone else? Clerk, kindly take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Clerk, kindly read resolution number 202-133.
Introduction of the 2022 municipal budget. Be resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriation attached hereto constitute the local budget of the Borough of Waldeck, Bergen County, New Jersey, for the year 2022. Be it further resolved that the said budget be published in the Bergen Record in the issue of Monday, March 21st, 2022, and that a hearing on the budget will be held at the Municipal Building, 63 Franklin Turnpike, Waldwick, New Jersey, 07463, on Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, at 7:30 PM or soon thereafter, as the matter may be reached.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading, and that the clerk be advertised it in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 PM or soon thereafter, as the matter may be reached. I have a motion by Don, second by Greg. On the question. Yeah, I just wanted, as I always do, and then we'll turn it over to Donna and the Finance Committee. I just want to thank everybody that was part of this budget. It was a little bit hard this year to work on a budget when every year we try to give a zero balance, a zero increase to everybody to keep it flat. This year, due to high expenses all over the place, we had to think really hard about doing something. And I know a lot of us are not happy with it, but we have to give a little increase to the public. I mean, if we don't do it this year, we could hold off and do it next year, but then even next year, it'll be even a little bit higher than we're doing now. So unfortunately, we had a good ride for 10 years, but unfortunately now we have to just say, we have to do the best we could moving forward. And all the different department heads and the council themselves did a great job in presenting this budget. They worked hard. I know we've here a lot of nights figuring this all out, and I know our department heads worked hard to get where they are with everything. They had to compromise on a lot of issues. A lot of them maybe might not have been happy, but at the end of the day, is the budget that they can live with.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the mayor's right. During the past 10 years where we didn't raise taxes, I'd say there were probably, in any given year, if you were to look back, a number of items that increased in the budget that, you'd be fortunate, and there'd be other items that we saw a reduction in costs that offset those increases. And I think what we're seeing today is those things aren't aligning. The cost of everything is going up. One of the things I think that we talk about during the public hearing on the budget, we'll get into a little more detail, is there's very little discretionary spending in our budgets. We have things like insurance we have to pay for, utilities, we have to pay the sewer authority. So there's a number of factors that go into creating the budget. But as the mayor said, our staff does a nice job, not just in putting this budget together, but then in managing this budget through the course of the year. So we're very confident about the budget we bring forward. What I want to talk about tonight as we introduce this is, for the public, we're going to be putting some information about the budget on the website, and a couple things that I want you to particularly pay attention to. You know what the borough does more or less. You know that we pave roads, we plow roads, we pick up leaves, we maintain our parks, and all the things we do. The budget is really in parts. When the mayor and councils and the staff are going through the budget, the first thing we do is we look at capital. So, what you see in terms of this budget is the complete package, but we go through the capital. So this is what the town is going to invest in the coming year in terms of equipment, vehicles, building, repairs, upgrades, enhancements, road repaving. On any given year, if you look back at our capital budgets, almost half our budgets are road repaving. And yet, we understand that the public gets frustrated when we're not paving your road. We do our best to get to them. We're very fortunate this year that we're getting some assistance to repave Prospect Street, which is in just terrible disrepair. And it desperately needs to be repaired. It's going to be a pain when we're doing it, but it's going to be nice for the next 10 years. So we'll grin and bear it while it's being done. The other part of the capital budget is our water budget. Now, the water budget is supported by water rates, not by property taxes, but the mayor and council still deliberates on those items, and we have some extraordinary expenses in the water department budget this year. So pay attention to those investments. And these are expenses, but we also look at them as investments, okay? So if we're replacing HVAC on one of our buildings, well, it's just the cost of doing business, and you can only ignore those things for so long. So those are the kinds of things we're investing in on behalf of the community. Then we move forward to our operating budget, where we really talk about, what we're funding in terms of operations, programs, and services. And it's interesting because in that you see, and it really is interesting, Councilwoman Sherman mentioned about 20% of your property taxes go to the borough. And when you look at our budget, I happen to think that the borough does an awful lot with that 20%. It's good quality services and programs. I'm very proud when I travel around Bergen County and I meet people in other towns and I say I'm from Waldwick, and they say, that's such a nice town. And that's the sentiment of people in our town and the people outside of our town. And it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by hiring the right people to do the job and giving them the resources to do their job. And that's what this budget does. We say we're going to invest in our community. We're going to provide our employees with the resources they need to do their job and to serve our community. And that's what the operating part of this budget does. And then our water department has an operating budget as well. So when you're looking at these documents, I think it'll be up there in a couple of forms, because when you put it together the way the state requires us to put it together, it's about 80 pages of spreadsheets and explanations and budget codes and formulations and tabulations. But when it really comes down to it, take a look at the budget document we'll put out on the website. and you'll see pretty much where your tax dollars are going. So we'll look forward to getting into some detail during the public hearing on April 12th, I believe it is, where, you know, if you take a little time to look on the website and review the budget or have any questions, ask a member of the mayor and council, ask a member of the staff what your questions might be, and, you know, you can come and make a comment or ask a question at the public hearing. That's kind of the big overview on what to expect when you get to view these documents, and I want to ask Patrick if he wanted to add anything.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman. And thank you to the CFO, the clerk, the assistant administrator, as well as the mayor and council for working since November to put this budget together. As Councilman Scalero had indicated, you know, there's a lot of things that we don't have any control over that drive some of this budget. Some of the things that we do have control over that I'm happy with are, you know, some of the investments we've made in our workforce, specifically in our DPW and our police department, on bringing some of the starting salaries up that were, you know, had remained stagnant since 2014, and then we're in dire need of that. You know, we have small increases on lifeguards who are coming up with minimum wage, which is a great thing. On some of our other lower paid employees where, one, we see their wages kind of being pushed up with the minimum wage increase, but also we want to bring them up where we can. And so those are good stories that we're fortunate to be able to support in this municipal budget. And there's, you know, there's also been a lot of you know, deciding our wants versus our needs, and I think we did that really well in this budget. 2% in a lot of municipalities is a huge win, and after 10 years, I can understand why it's not welcome with open arms here in the borough. But, you know, 10 years of flat taxes and then 2 years tax decrease followed is incredible. And then to only have to follow that with a 2% increase is, it's not just responsible this year, but I think it makes our budgeting in future years a lot more sustainable. You know, you see some municipalities that will keep taxes flat in year one, and it's 8% in year two, and it's 1.5 in year three, and it's 12 in year four. So we're fortunate with the support of the mayor and council, to be able to have a budget that I think has a responsible increase this year, but will also remain responsible in future years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I may add, so one of the things that, you know, we talked about is, you know, we can only do so much on the expense side, and we've talked about that during the budget process. We'll talk about that during our public hearing. You know, we also want to be a little more proactive on the revenue side and look at where our revenue comes from, see if there are ways we can enhance our revenue stream. As we all know, you know, you look at some towns that, you know, when you're in municipal government, you talk about ratables. So if you are in a municipality that has a big industrial complex or an office complex, there's pros and cons to that, but the pros are it's a great ratable. That means they pay a lot of taxes, which eases the burden on the homeowner. Well, in our little town, we don't have a lot of open space. We don't have a lot of big business district. We don't have office complexes and all those things that are good ratables for municipalities. We're homeowners, and we're primarily single-family homes. So there's not a lot you can do on the revenue side, but I think it's worth exploring. We're going to take a look at it with some fresh eyes as we go forward and talk about some of the things that we can look at. You know, you're always concerned about the revenue. You know, if anybody's in business, I've always thought government budgeting is really interesting, because in business you say, well, you know, we're going to forecast what our revenue is, and then we're going to create a budget, and then we're going to, you know, bust a gut to meet our revenue goals. In government, you create your expenses, and you say, how much are we going to raise taxes? How much do we have to raise in taxes to meet that goal? So it's a little different, but that's just the way it is, because that's our revenue stream. So I think we have, you know, work to do throughout the year, and hopefully when we come around to our budget for the following year, we'll have some suggestions and solutions for enhancing our revenue in our town.
Anyone else?
I was just going to comment, you know, to follow up on what Don said. It is disappointing not being able to come back with no increase, but we certainly don't want to have a double increase next year just for the sake of saying zero this year. And I want it to be clear that, the water, the DEP and the cost of treating our water is a big expense, so there's going to be a little bit of a hit for the homeowner on their water bills, which is, it's part of the budget, but it's separate from your tax rate, and which Don kind of touched on. I think we're looking at, what, like $13.5 million total or something like that, but we have a $3.5 million bill to take care of water treatment, which is just basically told we have to do it by the state. So you'll see that, at the water meter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
No.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Okay. Any unfinished business from the council? Anybody from the council have any unfinished business? Nope. Any new business from the council? Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to take the moment to congratulate the boys and girls high school basketball teams. They both made it to the States and had a very exciting season. So I congratulate all those players for working very hard in their basketball career. I was at the last state game at home for the girls, and I left before the boys started, but they actually brought out the mascot again for the game. So it was exciting to see the Warrior walking around the gym, and it was good games on both the girls and the boys' part. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Paul.
I'd like to talk a little bit. The environmental committee's been meeting and gathering up and putting together some very good information, and also setting up some tasks. They're especially going to start with Saturday, March 26th. They're going to have another styrofoam collection. It's going to be 9 to 1 o'clock on Saturday, March 26th. This is put onto the website. They're also going to be. They just recently have set up a program where they collect bags, plastics, and they're going to be putting out 3 receptacles at one at the library, one at the company number 2, and one at the DPW Recycling Center, where they're going to be collecting the plastic, and if they get enough of it every year, we can gather up to 2 benches from that situation. So it's a plus for us, and we also are collecting the recycling bags also. Another thing is, as our Councilman Sherman said about the Earth Day, they'll be setting up in conjunction with the clerk has been doing setting a lot of this up. They're going to be setting up a lot of exhibits there, including composting, rain barrel, water conservation, stormwater management, anti-idling, recycling coach and format for what we can or cannot recycle in Waldwick, EV stations information, solar, can we get our current vendor to come up, set up displays, lantern fly awareness. So they're going to be adding all these during the Earth Day, which I believe is April 23rd from 9 to 12 in Borough Park. And so if everybody wants to come out for that, they're also gathering up tree saplings to be able to hand out at the same time, as well as some other goodies that they're going to be handing out at the same time, which goes towards creating the environment, which I think they've been doing a very good job at trying to get together, and they're still working towards the sustainability awards, and we're working hard and fast on those situations to try and be able to get the bronze status for that as soon as possible. But I want to thank Mark Raimondo for putting this together and doing a very good job for the last 2 years, I guess, in gathering all that information and working with them, the people that are on the whole committee doing that also. Thanks.
Anyone else? Just on the new business also, if you notice that we took down the holiday banners and we have the spring banners up. The reason why it's going quicker now is because the DPW does it. You don't have to wait for the flag company, Gates Flag Company, to come in. We just tell the DPW when they have a free moment, and they do it for us right away. Also, we are working with the Chamber of Commerce. I think we have as many as we need, if not even a little bit less, of the new holiday banners. What we're doing is the banners that we have up on the poles, or we had up on the poles, most of those businesses not even around anymore. So what we did was we showed them 2 new banners, and it was well received by the chamber. And a lot of them are buying the banners for us with their name on it. So that'll be coming up for the holiday. And then also next year, we're going to be working on something to do with the veterans. A lot of other towns have the banners with the veteran on it, and his year born and year died, or just a branch of service. We're going to work on that. We'll reach out to the veterans of the VFW to help us with that. And also, under one other thing is Kelly will be sending a letter out to the commander of the VFW discussing our Memorial Day parade. I don't think it'll be any reason why we can't have a parade this year. We're all back to normal, somewhat normal. And I think a parade will be good for the borough and for the young kids that like to come out and march in the parade. Kelly will be sending that letter out, telling them, what they want from us, what we expect from them. And that's all I have in the business. Anyone else? Yes.
I just, seeing Ted Sanzo over there, it reminded me of one thing for new business. I saw a sign over by the utility pole where you are, the crossing guard, advertising people looking for used bicycles. Patrick, we might want to get that one pulled down. I don't know if it's gone or not, but we've been pretty diligent with trying to keep all those advertisements off of public right-of-ways and utility poles.
I took it down.
Oh, you did already?
No, but then somebody put it back up.
Oh, okay.
I threw it
That
out.
Marion.
Maybe it was Ted.
Yeah.
I took it and threw it in the dumpster here, and I guess the people that
Oh.
didn't see it there, they put another one out there.
Might have to
I think
entrap
we
them
should do
and
that.
call them and pretend we're selling a bicycle.
You're right.
See.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Okay, if not, public comment. Anybody from the public would like to comment on anything, please come to the microphone, state your name and address so the clerk could record it.
Ted Sanzo, 9 Kennedy Drive. Excuse me, Patrick. Last meeting, you mentioned funding for the filtration. Okay. From tonight's meeting, I'm learning that we're footing the bill. Because you got $3 million in the budget for whatever. So, the funding that you were talking about, is the funding going to be a loan or is it going to be a grant? By which point, it's either we're paying for it or whoever caused the problem may have to pay for it. Please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the estimated cost to install the treatment system, which entails 2 treatment silos of granular activated carbon at 5 of our 6 filtration, or 5 of our 6 well sites, and pumping from one well site to the other, that's about $3.5 million. We received just over $1 million from the federal government in the COVID stimulus money. So that money has proposed to be dedicated towards that use. The mayor and council will still have to pass ordinances to effectuate that, but they've committed to pledging that just over $1 million to the $3.5 million. We are also seeking funding from the federal government for the recent bipartisan infrastructure bill that they passed. I know that money's been distributed to the state from the federal government, and the state will distribute it to municipalities. We have been in contact with our representatives at the state and federal level and submitted applications for that money. What that will, when that will come to us and how much will come to us, we don't know. But we are also moving forward with an application to the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank for funding. The benefits of going through the infrastructure bank, they have, because we're a small system, at or less than 10,000 in population, we get $500,000 in debt forgiveness, so another $500,000 off. So that leaves you with about $2 million. The remainder is low interest, which is obviously beneficial. So we don't know the full picture of what that debt service could look like. I would expect that it will be somewhere between $2 million, taking the federal money and the debt forgiveness, $2 million or less, depending on what we get from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We don't know that yet. But to Councilman York's point, that money would be, or that debt service would be supported by water rates, not by the municipal tax levy. And at $2 million, that's a heavy burden. for the water ratepayers to pay. We're fortunate that we can spread it out over, it's not definite yet, but, 30-plus years. So that, that's a benefit to the borough, but it's still a large expense for a water system that hasn't had anywhere near that requirement in its history.
Excuse me, but is there any chance we can get part of whatever the governor gets? Because in reading news articles, and educate me if you can, the governor is going after getting money. I believe in suing whoever made the chemicals or whatnot. I don't know if you're familiar with the articles, but is there a chance we can cover the rest of the $2 million if they can get $1 billion, and can we get a chunk of it? Do something
Yeah, I think
for our benefit.
anything that becomes available, the borough would obviously go after. And I think there may be a point where the mayor and council, once we address actually filtering these compounds out, where we then take some of the free time after this is all finished and say, can we try to find out, any contributing sources and are there any responsible parties, to your point? Whether that be us going after them individually or going through funding from the state. Those are obviously options that the borough would seek when the time is right.
Okay, thank you.
think- I think Greg wants
I was just going to say, at least, I don't want to be too much of a gloomy Gus, but on the upside, it sounds like the lead's not going to be a massive undertaking in our town potentially. Preliminarily?
Yeah,
you say that?
preliminarily, yeah.
Because you've read what's been going on in Newark, where they went and changed everything out, and from what I saw, we don't have a lot of lead service pipe, at least initially, from the initial survey.
That's right, yeah.
So it's not like we're going to get whacked again, hopefully.
And then also, last Friday, when I was in the town hall here, meeting with Patrick, I got a phone call from Congressman Gottheim, talking to us about, I guess he got a couple of letters or complaints about our water and what we're doing and not doing. So Patrick was there, and Patrick spoke to him and told him all we have done so far and what we are going to do. We also let him know about the meeting we had with the public, to let them be educated on what's going on with our professionals. And Patrick did ask him at that point to help us with finances and everything. He said that he would look into it for us, and he will keep us in touch with things that he could help us with. So we are doing the best we could with trying to get this lowered or do whatever we have to do.
Okay, just to further, and hopefully this will at least solve that point, I am familiar with Mr. Tom Sullivan, the commissioner, who, for the county, and he seems to be very hands in hand, how can I say? When Tom Sullivan recently took his, I swear to be in the office, I think it was Josh Gottheimer holding the Bible. So they're friends. Is there any voices that anyone else in our community can voice? Do you want us to continue to bug Mr. Gottheimer?
If you like to, but the only thing is, if you bug them, just tell them, not you saying it, but as
Yeah.
we were told, people were telling him stories that weren't true.
No, I understand.
Yeah, if, you know what, any help we could get is to help for everybody.
Okay, I'll be a pain in his neck, I don't care. I can be a pain in your neck, I know. One other thing concerning, I'd like to give the DPW a water guy today. At my post, one of the signs blew down overnight, and they put it back up. I happened, the sign was laying on the little grassy area between the street and the sidewalk. I flagged an officer, he made a phone call, they came, and they fixed it. So, whatever. When would the minutes for the last meeting be posted?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Thank you.
For tonight's meeting or for what we just approved?
No, the one you just approved.
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Don, is we going to get a condensed version of the budget, by which point, I guess, if someone chose to, they could come and look at the line-by-line budget if they come to Borough Hall and request it. Well, I'm checking his availability so we don't get in trouble. And do we get a condensed version on the website? Mayor?
Yeah, I spoke with Patrick earlier. The staff prepares what goes out on the website, but I've been assured there'll be information on the website that is more readable and
Yeah.
not the full version. So I think, we do a budget brochure, and there'll be other information as well.
Okay, but the line by line will be available if, I've checked in the past, I've walked in the Borough Hall and said, can I see it? And the answer was always yes, and I'm just verifying that it's available.
I mean,
And
you're-
nothing
we're required by law to have that. There's also supposed to be a copy in the library by law.
Oh.
So either place, you'll have to give me a day to do that, but
Yeah,
it'll
no
it'll
problem.
also be posted on the website in addition to the other materials.
I'm just making sure we don't get in trouble.
Nope, you will not.
Concerning the library, Ms. Sherman, if you choose, I put flyers, and Mr. Ramundo knows about it. I put flyers out for the styrofoam collection at the library. If you wish to make copies and talk to Lori, she's usually very agreeable. If you put the flyers on that table at the lobby. So in order to spread the word, because in the past, I've gone there and just put a couple of copies down, and it was the day of the event. And a person from town said, oh, I didn't know about it, and I'm finding out about it now. So Lori's usually agreeable.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you want to do something for the Earth Day thing, whatever. Okay, may I, in a certain way, disagree with you, Mr. Bajor?
Certainly.
Okay, his practice, I understand, concerning not charging the fees for the inspections. I have a point of view that things do have to change from now to the future. And I come from this point of view, being an electrician, okay? Everybody knows Benjamin Franklin found light, found the electricity with the key on the pipe. If it wasn't for change, we'd still be burning whale oil for light. So change has to happen. And it does include change between the town and the Board of Ed, and also from the Board of Ed to the town. Hey, if it would, change has to happen. So as far as I'm concerned, past practices, yeah, they hold some water, but a reality check is necessary. Okay, and also, Mr. Ritchie, do you happen to have a Plan B for when the Board of Ed slaps the olive branch out of your hand? Because I've been to the Board of Ed, and they're really quick in slapping things out of your hand. Do you have a Plan B?
I get my hand slapped every day in business. You just have to keep trying. This is a long-term building of a relationship. They may continue slapping my hand, but I think all of us have to just continue coming back. That's the only answer I have right now.
Okay.
I just
Like
say one
King-
thing, why we keep on saying relationship? We do have a relationship.
I know.
The reason why there's a situation right now is because they're asking for money. We had to decide yes or no. So I think we do have a relationship. And to say we have to keep on going with a relationship, we have to keep on moving forward with it, not to try to change it to make it better, because I think it's all right. They just have to know where we're coming from, and we have to know where they're coming from. I mean, they do help us when we need help.
Okay, thank you. Okay. One other thing is, did the Board of Ed have permit costs in their budget when they budgeted for the project in the first place? Okay? And hopefully, to end on a better note, Mayor, did you know there's a Thomas Giordano Middle School in the Bronx?
There's one in Thomas C. Giordano.
Excuse me?
Is it in the Bronx?
Yes,
Yeah, Thomas C. Giordano.
yes.
Yeah, I used to live around there, but that's no relation. I'm of the poor Giordano.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sorry, it's taking me a bit. This was a collection from a 30-minute walk around my neighborhood. My name's Allison Porfido. I live at 47 McKay Ave. I've lived in Waldwick for 47 years. My sons, you recognized my son. My oldest, Joseph, is an Eagle Scout in Troop 88, and my youngest, Timothy, is 17, or almost 17, and is also an Eagle Scout. He just had his board of review. So I'm a member of the Methodist Church. I've been on the ambulance corps with Paul. So I am coming tonight to ask for your help. So this was my collection from a 30-minute walk, six blocks around Trapegan School. So I need to show you what I'm talking about so you don't just think I'm complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm asking for help. I brought my son Joseph here as my AV team. Do you mind if he just shares something? Where
Absolutely.
should he display it? There or that or there?
Um,
It's just less than 2 minutes.
What is it?
It's a slideshow.
Oh, um,
My issue, we just need one plug.
You can put it on that wall. There should be a plug right there, isn't there?
You're
Yeah,
at
he might have to stand over here.
No problem. Less than the average voting machine.
So while he sets that up, my issue is nobody seems to see these until we actually look at them. I called Matthew, spoke to Matthew Gilder. He told me the town has already done everything they can. It comes out in our news flash to please call the Suburban and unsubscribe. I have called the Suburban News. I've gotten through 3 times and asked to unsubscribe. I'm not going to tell you how many times I actually called and was disconnected. Probably over 30. This is a bag. This bag probably weighs over 40 pounds. I couldn't carry it anymore. I had to go back home from my walk. I usually walk a lot further. So what I'm asking the town to do, and for the mayor and council to do, is to join me in adding weight to what we're going to ask the Suburban News to do, to stop littering in our town every week. This is just ridiculous, and I'm going to show you some of the photos. Some of these homes have 5 or 6 of these supplements. Now, these are not the subscribed newspapers. These are supplements specifically for people that don't subscribe to the Record or the Suburban News. If you buy it, it comes tucked in your one that you know to cancel or postpone if you go away. And you also know is coming. Most of us have no idea it's coming. And we don't know it was there or delivered until 2 weeks later and it's stuck in the storm drain. So you'll see a picture of that. Just hit slideshow for me. Okay. That's what it turns into. Don't even make it to the property. My father has osteoarthritis in his knees. He goes down a hill at 54 Lindbergh Parkway. He can't get down to pick these up all the time. He's not asking for them to be thrown on his yard or near his yard. They don't even make it onto the property. We can't recycle these newspapers. We can't recycle the plastic. It just ends up in the garbage. We're lucky if it ends up in the garbage. When I spoke to Matt, he told me it was an issue of free speech. This is not free speech. This is littering. It's our environment. So I'm asking for help with this. He told me to call the police department to file my affidavit and that it would go to the judge. That's really not what I would love to do. I'd rather ask the town to help me to ask the Suburban News to stop doing it.
Could we get a copy of that?
Sure.
Could you send it to Matt? Or send it
Sure.
to me? And Matt, could we follow up with this to maybe send a letter to the Suburban News with this? Let them know that, this is not, if you're going to deliver them, you're going to deliver it, place it in the right area. And, maybe they should ask the residents to send something out saying, do you want us to deliver this to you? We can't ban them from the whole town, because some people like to read it. But the thing is, they can't, that's not good.
I can absolutely contact Suburban News as to the matter of me saying free speech. That was an advice of our
Right.
attorney from a previous, so it's been brought up in the past, as long as you just can't stop it
Right.
altogether.
Okay,
And I had been in contact with the police as well, as that's what I, based on what I was told to do, was the
Right.
only option besides the mayor and council trying to support this
right.
action.
Well, I think
I
we're all.
called the police department, and the police officer called me back twice. He was wonderful. And I apologized because the police should not have to go to the academy and carry a gun to talk to me about newspapers. And I said, if you please, sir, if you get a real call, hang up on me. I am not that person. But I really was hoping we could do it where we just put a little weight behind this request rather than just me.
Right, what you could do is take a piece of my letterhead and, then I'll sign it and just put on it that the entire mayor and council was at a meeting and this is what took place. Is everybody all right with that?
Are you all?
And this is what's going on and, explain to them that they do have a freedom of speech, but the thing is, you can't
Could they?
litter our town like this.
Could we suggest a different opportunity for them to distribute that? Because it is mostly ads. If they could put it in a central place where it's protected from weather, and people could take it if they want it, if they put it here in town, if they had a little newspaper thing, or possibly like a dispenser at the 7-Elevens, something to that effect, where you take it if you want it.
Right, we could ask them what's their policy and how other ways in which it could be distributed to the residents. Okay?
Thank you.
And then maybe at the next meeting or something, if you do it, just report on it, under your report.
Hey,
Okay,
Mayor,
thank you.
Some towns have like mailboxes out by the street, and then they have a separate spot for those type of things to go in. Most of our mailboxes are up by our houses. So I don't know if they have to walk all the way up to the house to stick it in like a
I think
set of
there's an
U's
ordinance
underneath.
They're not allowed to put it in our mailbox.
No.
Is that
Right, well,
correct?
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but some towns have mailboxes out at the street, and they used to have a little like yellow sleeve where they'd shove that thing
Right.
in,
Yeah,
but
some-
we don't have that.
Yeah, we don't have it yet. But Matt will look into all that for you.
Okay.
But
thank
just,
you.
don't forget just to send us that.
We will.
All right, thank you.
Ma'am, I'd like to thank you for bringing this to our attention. I've been talking about this for a year and a half now, 5 years before I was even on the dais.
Bothering me for a long time, too.
But what's also equally sad is that the residents aren't picking up trash from their own property.
Named a couple people, don't worry.
Yeah, so I myself walk and run a lot, and when I do, when they're in the street, the Suburban Newses, I pick them up and toss them on people's lawn, because I know the delivery person intended it to be at that house, but he missed. So, I'm just trying to keep it out of the sewer drain as you are. So thank you for bringing that here today. I appreciate it.
Seeing Tamara, they love to pick up the paper.
Mayor,
Sir, name, please?
John Vervoort, 34 Leonard Drive. I want to applaud the previous speaker because I brought this up last year, and I called the Villadom Times or whatever it is, Suburban News, and told them, unsubscribe, take me off, I don't want your garbage, stop sending it to me. They didn't. They kept sending it to me, so I took pictures, and I wrote, and I called the CEO of the company. And you know what? I'm not getting them anymore.
You have the CEO's name to give it to us?
I forget how I found it, but I'll find it again.
Make sure.
They were leaving them in the middle of the street, on the corner. They were leaving them all over the place. And I did the same thing. I walked around, and I walked to the 7-Eleven from my house, and I think I counted like 40 of them. And it just drove me nuts because, for all the same reasons that we just heard. The squeaky wheel gets oiled. We got to raise a little hell and just threaten a little hate and discontent, and we'll get somewhere. But
It's on your shoulders, Matt. You got big shoulders. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to go into close? Motion by Don, second by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Half an hour, no action. Go into close.
You know,
No
Terry,
action.
the problem with those papers is they're so light, they can even if they hit your driveway.
Oh, yeah, they don't make them at 6. It looks like a news flash.
Especially in March,
I can't imagine they're making money because the gas